out from them this the issue. But I will answer if you have additional questions. Also, this how this the war in Ukraine is impacting. I can say a few words. One is that why also the EU's role is important in this respect is that, first of all, our 2020 war, everyone see that Russia is only mediator in the region. So Russia has a monopoly. Russia was only player that actually going between Baku and Yerevan. Russia dominated all discussion from transport corridor to the things related to the Armenian populated Karabakh. But right now we have let's say the EU and also the US engagement, high level engagement, which is different pre 2022. And the second is that we didn't have any peace agenda in the region, peace agreement. So despite Azerbaijan offered back to 2021, but still it wasn't seen as the main issue. And also my understanding is the Russian perception was that Baku and Yerevan will be ready, might be 10 or 15 years later, any kind of the big peace deal. But right now, this is a new reality that the sides are discussing the peace deal. And so this is the two issues I see the important and which has changed with the invasion of the Ukraine. And the last thing that I already said that right now EU is seen as a different way inside the public and also in the government. So this is also what EU or the West reaction to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It increased the level of trust, security guarantees of the European Union.
Okay, thank you very much, Sawa. I mean, you raised a lot of important points there that I think we can come back to. I mean, particularly vis-a-vis the role of the EU as a mediator in the ongoing, or not ongoing maybe, conversation between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But I want to turn now to Kaka to give you the floor, because obviously the situation in Georgia is different to that in Armenia and Azerbaijan. But I mean, Georgia has had 20% of its territory occupied by Russia for a long time. I mean, the resolution of these conflicts seems as far away as ever. But at the same time, you know, the internal situation in the country is hardly conducive to stability. It's very, very polarized, despite the fact that Georgia has now been given candidate country status, or will be given candidate country status. It has the possibility of getting candidate country status, which is something that probably would never have happened before the war in Ukraine. So how do you see now the role of the EU in the region? Because they've certainly beefed up their, you know, I would say their approach towards Georgia as well. But I mean, particularly vis-a-vis Georgia, but also the larger region.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, APRI and VPC for inviting to this meeting. I think that, yes, I agree with the idea that actually for EU, the region is a neighboring region, and obviously EU is interested to expand its own values, to expand the stability, security, justice, prosperity towards our region too. As far as otherwise, EU will not itself feel confident and stable if the surrounding regions are in disruptive state. So, but I think that the Ukrainian war especially changed a little bit this meaning, and the region has become important, more important than before for EU. There are several things that we can mention as factors that increase the importance of the region. One should be, of course, the economic. So this is energy routes and alternative energy supply possibilities, especially from Azerbaijan, and also looking to Central Asia with more interest now than it was before. Before, Russia was the main supplier of hydrocarbons to EU member states. Now I think very important has become this route, and to my view, the interest in this regards will be rising. So EU as an economic power, of course, is now more interested in projecting its interests in this region in this regards. Then, of course, EU remains as a normative power and as a normative actor in this region, and the importance of supporting democracy in the region is rising, especially after this war in Ukraine that is purely result of the lack of democracy in Russia, which caused this kind of decisions from Russian government to start the war. And of course, the support of democracy in the region has become even more important now in order to keep the peace and to not to have emerged a new region with security threats. And here I think EU has increased, of course, its interest to support the countries, and especially Georgia, which has become now a country with European perspective, practically the potential candidate country. So EU is ready now to provide military support also, not military support in the sense of military deployed in Georgia, but support, financial support to the defense sector. And this already happened. Around 30 million was disbursed to Georgian government to strengthen a defense sector. And this will continue. It's not about only participation in CSDP meetings and trying to engage in common defense and security policy measures, but also a possibility for the future, which I think is open now, to participate in structural cooperation projects. Not exactly in structural cooperation, but in projects related to common defense industrial activities. So, for example, Georgia together with Poland or Czech Republic, creating a kind of weapons, for example, armored vehicles or something together. This is already possible theoretically, but I hope that practical development will follow also in this regard. So EU, to my view, EU is already more interested to engage itself as a defense actor also. And I remember that in 2008, actually, EU was increased very much its CSDP. So I mean, its meaning or its power as a security actor and a political actor because of engaging in ceasefire, in reaching ceasefire between Russia and Georgia. And also this mediation, EU's mediation increased its role in South Caucasus as a security actor. And in general, I think it strengthens EU's the security dimension as such, and also as a political actor, strong foreign policy actor in the world. And now this is the momentum where this Ukrainian war also even more increases EU's internal stimulus to become a security actor its own, not just depending on NATO, which NATO is important and stays important, but becoming also itself a security providing actor. And in this regards, I think Georgia is a very important country for EU, but also this kind of relations with Azerbaijan and Armenia can be in the future increased. I think that what is important that with this board, of course, the Amanda mentioned already that Georgia would have not received, of course, the status of potential candidate, and nor Ukraine and Moldova. The slight change is that finally EU recognized that Georgia is not only South Caucasian state. As far as EU considered this as a troika, as a three associated countries. But somehow this enlargement, this enlargement package, which now includes Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia already as a part of the new enlargement package, means that Georgia also belongs in understanding in the EU's great geopolitical understanding, or maybe territorial understanding, original context. Georgia belongs also to the Black Sea region as such. Not only, but it remains, of course, the South Caucasian state, very important. EU also tries to promote relations between the South Caucasian states, and this will remain as a priority to my view. But with enlargement, I think there was very strong move of European Union towards the region. It is not only about establishing itself in Georgia as an actor, by involving Georgia in this enlargement process, but also new tasks of dealing closer with Azerbaijan and Armenia, which have no, at this moment, the ambition to become members of the European Union. But in the same time, there are new possibilities open to engage with them. I think that in this regard, this format of trilateral relations between Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, that to my view, it could become quite possible. As far as we just established the trio 2 years ago, we established trio with Ukraine and Moldova, and we need to push it forward. The trio can be established also between Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. Of course, there is need for Armenia and Azerbaijan to set up and to go into the next stage of conflict resolution, but still even conflict transformation. For example, when the conflict transformation actually happens, these three countries may establish very good format of cooperation, and the EU can participate here as an actor, and we could have all three together with the EU many projects in common. And this is about development of East-West corridor, for example, North-South corridors, and many other issues that can be here actually brought. And last, maybe I will tell about this new needs also which EU has as an economic actor. To my view, this acceleration of the process of, for example, such a project as undersea energy cable, electric energy cable undersea, under the Black Sea, which will take from Azerbaijan green energy, as it is intended to say, and passes Georgia, and it connects the region. This energy connection would be very important. Armenia, of course, can participate in the future also, or benefit from this, and Armenia can sell its energy. It has for this quite a potential to sell its electric energy through this cable also. When between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the relations, of course, soften and they become better.
Thank you, Kaka.
Yes. I will stop here, and we can continue with other issues.
Great, thank you very much. I'd like to return back to you now, Ambassador Clark, to sort of pick up on something that Zawa mentioned about, does the EU have a long-term vision, a holistic or long-term strategy for the region? Because I would agree, the EU is quite famous for being a sort of reactive rather than proactive actor, not just in the South Caucasus, but in foreign policy more generally. And then I would like to just pick up on two questions that we have in the chat box here for you from Navad Chal. The first one is asking what kind of information is the EU observers transferring to Azerbaijan and why? And the second question is regarding the corridor that would link Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan. What are the interests of the EU in this corridor that the Azerbaijanis call the Zangezur corridor?
Thank you very much. Well, reactive versus proactive. We do have the Eastern Partnership already for quite a number of years. And the Eastern Partnership was born out of a sense that we need to establish closer relations with all these countries. So I would say that that's a fairly proactive strategy. It's not just reactive. So of course, reactive as well, in the sense that after the 2020 war, we saw that there's a need for greater engagement. There was a desire for greater engagement between Armenia and Azerbaijan on both sides for the EU. In that sense, reactive, as was mentioned, as far as the 2008 war in Georgia was concerned. Of course, that was also reactive in the sense that we reacted to the war, but afterwards we have worked on the whole gamut and I think any policy is both reactive and proactive. You can always say that you should be a bit more proactive here or there, or maybe even a bit more reactive here or there. But I would certainly not agree that the EU's policies is either only reactive or only proactive. I think so. The Russians' efforts made in late 2020, early 2021, to establish a certain list of topics that needed to be addressed between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And as I have said to Russian interlocutors also, well, there's not that much out there to when they come around, when we have been accused of stealing the agenda. Well, I think the agenda is what it is, but I think in the Brussels meetings chaired or facilitated by President Michel, a lot of the individual items on the agenda, whether it is border commissions or whether it is the question of transport links, has been talked about and in greater detail, and certain elements have been agreed in these discussions. So the EU has actually, these meetings have helped shape important elements of the collective peace agenda. So in that sense, I would say that the EU has certainly had its vision and has worked on promoting it. What kind of info that is from the Politico article, I suppose. Well, we have always been absolutely transparent with Azerbaijan, both when we had our short-term mission last year and now with this mission. We have always provided the information about the scheduling of the mission's patrols, which is absolutely normal, and we have nothing to hide. So we are providing information about the schedule of our patrols to Azerbaijani colleagues, and we're doing that on a weekly basis. And so finally, regarding, again, coming back to transport connections, I think it is, first of all, amongst the leaders here in Brussels, there has been quite some detailed discussion about the connection between, let's say, mainland Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan via Armenia, and how that should be structured. And we have reached certain common understandings. The implementation of this has rested with the working group of deputy prime ministers. where the Armenian and Azerbaijani deputy prime ministers have met with their Russian counterpart. And frankly, I think that here there can be some streamlining in terms of seeing how we can push this issue forward, because my sense is that there really isn't that much space between the positions, and with a bit more intensive work, it is possible to bridge differences and to reach an understanding of how to ensure these transport interconnections.
Thank you, Ambassador Clark. I'd like to come back to you now, Benjamin, to talk a bit about, the peace. I mean, the peace agreement, which seems to have become quite sort of stuck, if I can put it that way. And at least two of the issues. I mean, first of all, the status of the ethnic Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh, and how their security and rights are going to be guaranteed. And then the future of Nagorno-Karabakh beyond the November 2025, when the Russian peacekeepers are due to leave, although sometimes Russians never leave. But I mean, how do you see, what's the options thereafter in terms of a new formation of peacekeepers, which is probably something that is going to be required, given the fact that there's zero trust between the Armenian community there and Azerbaijan, etc. So I'd like to put that question to you and then to Zawa.
Thank you. I believe one thing is clear. Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh should continue living in Nagorno-Karabakh, should continue living in their homeland. This is first. And second thing, which is also absolutely clear for, I'm sure, everyone who even had a basic understanding of the history of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, is the fact that as of now, Armenians cannot live in Nagorno-Karabakh simply as an Azerbaijani citizens without any special rights and any special guarantees for their rights. This is not going to happen. And if we will move forward towards this direction, it will simply end with either hard or soft ethnic cleansing. So definitely we need international presence in Nagorno-Karabakh, and not for years, I'm sure for decades, simply to ensure that Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh will be able to continue living in their homeland. What does it mean, international presence? Currently, these are the Russian peacekeepers. We all know that their mandate expires in November 2025. And we hear a statement from Azerbaijani officials and also from many Azerbaijani experts that Azerbaijan will demand the withdrawal of Russian peacekeepers in November 2025. If this is going to happen, and of course nobody knows what Russians will do, and I'm not going to go deeper into the Russian actions or policy options, but I strongly believe that the European Union, the actor who has interests in the South Caucasus, because South Caucasus is the European neighborhood, and also with some responsibility also, because he's present in South Caucasus, and also he had growing strategic economic partnership with Azerbaijan. European Union is suited well to start speak with both Armenia and Azerbaijan to see how European Union can ensure its presence in Nagorno-Karabakh after November 2025 if Azerbaijan demands withdrawal of Russian peacekeepers, and then if Russian peacekeepers really leave. Because again, no international presence in Nagorno-Karabakh means zero Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. It may happen immediately, forced deportation, or it may take years, soft ethnic cleansing, but the result will be the same. And I believe that no one in the international community, and especially the European Union, would like to be complacent of either hard or soft ethnic cleansing. So my understanding is that given the coming deadline of November 2025, European Union is suited well at least to start to speak with Armenia and Azerbaijan about potential EU presence in Nagorno-Karabakh beyond November 2025. Yes, we all hear Azerbaijani position very clear that we are against any international presence, we are against any Western presence, we don't trust the West. But in any case, it does not mean that the EU should not try. Because again, for me, and I believe for everyone who has basic understanding of the history of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, without international presence in Nagorno-Karabakh, there will be no Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, either immediately or in some period of time.
Okay, thank you, Benjamin. So I'd like to hear your perspective on this, Zawa, as well. I mean, is Baku, cemented to its current position, or is there some sort of flexibility on this issue? I mean, how is it viewed by by the Azerbaijanis?
Thank you. I think it's premature to predict the future, but at the same time, I think the issue is rapidly approaching resolution within the next 1.5 years. So I think the withdrawal of the Russian troops in 2025 is already a priority for Baku, and the political leadership has openly declared this. But also, I think it's a long-term position of the Baku, even before the 2020 war, that Baku doesn't want to replace the Russian peacekeeping force with another forces. So that's why their role, it's unlikely that Baku will agree in any time that the EU will, let's say, replacing the Russian peacekeeping forces with EU or the third parties. And also, we should take into account that when we talk about this, the possible withdrawal of Russian troops, we cannot imply that the Russians will simply disappear from the region. So that's why also when talking about the withdrawal of the Russian troops, also Baku considered that how it can be aggressively seen by Russia if it's going to be replaced. So withdrawal is one thing, but replacement is a much more harsh, and this can bring a much more harsh reaction. So, but what will be the security guarantees? I think this depends on the answer to the question whether there will be a deal between any substantive discussion between the Baku and the Karabakh Armenians, and what the future of Karabakh Armenians in the region will be. So, and there might be, based on that, there might be an ad hoc mission that's not located in the region, but this can play a role of verification of this the deal or some kind of the security guarantees. But it is hard to predict and to talk about this, let's say, possible security guarantees. And but when it comes to the part of your question, that how the future of the fate of Karabakh or the Armenians, whether this is going to be part of the peace treaty, I think there are, in my understanding, there were different perception when it comes to the peace treaty. And one side wanted a comprehensive peace treaty, another side wanted a simple text that declares the declarative nature. We are much more focused right now about the peace treaty, let's say, actual signature of the deal, but we are not thinking about this a day after peace treaty and how it's going to be its implication to the region in Azerbaijan, in Armenia, how it's going to be received, how it's going to be granted, or how it's going to be levelized. And no one is talking about this, and this is, I think, much more important, as important as the peace treaty. And the future of the Karabakh Armenians, I think there are the question is that who's going to be build agenda and how they're going to be discuss their rights and their security. There is one thing that Armenian Prime Minister is saying about this. They will focus the rights and security of Karabakh Armenians, but this is another thing that how it's going to be reflected by the Karabakh Armenians. So far, when we talk about this issue with Azerbaijani leadership or any senior officials in Baku, they say that if the Armenians in Karabakh is saying that we are not going to be part of Azerbaijan, so then why and how we should discuss anything related to the security and rights of Karabakh Armenians. So this is, and it's not considered as a negotiation position of the Karabakh Armenians. It's considered as some kind of this, let's say, lack of willingness to discuss or explore such ideas. But in order to move forward, I think first we need the agenda and agenda provider to this kind of the discussion should happen. And also we need a more vibrant and sustained format for discussion between Baku and Karabakh Armenians. So far, the site has engaged mostly humanitarian issues, security and security-related issues, but not substantive ones. And Baku is against internationalization of the process, but it's important also for Baku to formulate and make public its vision for rights and security of Armenians in Karabakh. Some of the red lines is very clear. Likely there will not be any kind of the administrative or territorial autonomy for Karabakh Armenians, but at the same time, other issues. When talking about this, they will have their rights will provide under the Azerbaijan constitution. It's not clear that what's the limitation, what's the red line. So that's why this should be, might be, it's not a better way to make this publicly available, but at least it's better to formulate by or agenda and present as a part of the discussion. But as I said, I see unlikely replacement of the Russian peacekeeping forces with another forces by 2025.
Okay, thank you, Zawa. And I think President Putin himself has said they're in no hurry to leave, and the mission could just be prolonged. But maybe I can just bring this question to you as well, Ambassador Klar. I mean, if there was an agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia on this, would the EU be ready to deploy such a peacekeeping mission? And is it already something that's being thought about in the EU circles?
I think hypothetical questions are always stimulating, but maybe sometimes should be left unanswered. But I do think, and I have said so also in public previously, that taking into consideration the history of conflict, there will obviously need to be security arrangements that where people feel themselves safe, and whatever those are, but just to assume that from one day to the next we can go from total separation to total integration, I think that is simply I don't think it has worked anywhere with such a history of conflict. So I picking up on what Zaur was saying, I think it's also a important thing to start a genuine discussion about what is somehow the vision coming from Baku in a broader sense. What is on the table in whatever format, but I think there has to be much more of a discussion and much more of an engagement in this regard, and in that sense, I would say that, well, the peace agreement discussions are ongoing. I mean, there have been exchanges of texts, and there's certainly I wouldn't say that it's stuck. I think it's a process that certainly deserves a bit more of a push, but I don't think it's stuck per se. But the question that was mentioned here also is that actually what happens the day after the peace agreement? How do we really ensure comprehensive peace across the region? And that entails, that includes then also the rights and security of the Karabakh Armenians. It includes the transport connections. It includes many other things. It includes the idea of how do people actually start interacting between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So it's one thing to have a peace agreement, that is an incredibly important element, but in the end, there's many issues that need to be resolved as a consequence of this conflict that has been going on for so long.
Thank you. And I just quickly like to put this question to here in the chat box that's asking about Azerbaijan complying with the recent ICJ order to take all measures at its disposal regarding the movement of persons and whatnot through the Latin corridor. What is the EU doing to ensure that?
Well, I think the first fact is that the EU is not there. This is we are not a signatory to the ceasefire agreement. It is the Russian peacekeepers who are there, and in that sense, we have said previously that the situation that existed in November should be restored, and that continues to be our position, and that is something that we continue pushing for. At the same time, so people on the ground should be able to move freely. People on the goods should be able to move freely, and if there are concerns about certain goods, then there are ways of monitoring that, but that should not impact on the lives of average people who certainly have seen their lives deteriorate as a consequence of the situation that we see in the Lachin corridor since the beginning of December.
Okay, thank you very much. I can't believe that we've nearly run out of time. It seems to have gone by in a breath. We only have a few minutes. So I want to come back to all of you to ask you in 2 minutes if you could give the EU one recommendation now, what you think it should do immediately, or what would be the most important and crucial thing for improving security and stability in the region. What would it be? And I want to start with you, Kaka, because you've had the least of time, and I'm sorry for that. We'll have to organize a second discussion just for Georgia. So I want to give you the floor first.
Well, thank you so much. So I understand that the highest interest now is about Karabakh and the conflict. That conflict should be resolved. This is the major issue. As regards to Georgia, I just difficult to advise something to EU, but the EU is in a very difficult situation now, because we understand in Georgia that the EU's institutions and member states also are interested to give us candidate status, but in the same time, our government is not behavior is not fully relevant to the situation, and we see that they're somehow resisting to certain reforms, especially of justice reform and de-oligarchization, or related to media freedom, etc. There are some setbacks in democracy. So EU is in a difficult situation, so it's difficult to advise the EU, but finally, I think it is important for Georgia to get candidate status. This would be important not only for Georgia, but for the EU's presence in South Caucasus as well. And it will be also somehow also important for Armenia and Azerbaijan to have a neighbor which is closer to EU institutionally also, that they see more prospects for also their integration with European Union in the future.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to you now, Zara. Same question.
Okay, what would be advice to the EU? I think I'm not in position to advise to EU anything. So, but what?
With a priority, what's the priority?
I think yes. I mean, I have one idea. So I'm telling this in many in different platforms, and this is that when I talk about this, the EU vision, long-term vision. So I am not underestimating that what the ambassador told about this Eastern Partnership or others, but also Eastern Partnership is, from my understanding, is a dysfunctional or has a potential, but not potential hasn't used, because the region was still is a dysfunctional. But what I would like to see as a, let's say, peace investment, the plan for the region by the European Union. So EU is financing many things in the region, from humanitarian issues and also, let's say, conflict building measures, but also it will be very useful to the regional, let's say, citizen of the region to see that how big, let's say, EU investment and also the plans and also the after resolution of the conflict or the full the peace treaty, how EU can contribute to the stability. because we know that the restoration of the communication and other things will take many years, and the benefit of this kind of the communication will not come easier. So, and also the last 30 years, it's hard for regional people in the region to differentiate between the war situation and the peace situation. So that's why they would like to see it tangibly. So this can come only with financial help. Also, this is not only about this related to the, let's say, the conflict zone. It's also related to the, let's say, border region of Azerbaijan and Armenia, the border communities of Armenia. So the Azerbaijanis, the region that Azerbaijan displaced people will return, and also Armenian populated the Karabakh. So all areas, there's some vision about how to support the peace deal, if there will be a deal. So this kind of vision will be beneficial, because let's say I read many articles or also the reports about this, how the peace will bring how will increase the GDP of Azerbaijan and Armenia. This is something that actually is not tangible. So people would like to see tangible, also clear vision that will be beneficial for everyone involved in the region.
Thank you. Benjamin?
I believe EU may send a high-level political delegation to both Armenia and Azerbaijan, maybe led by Vice President Borrell, first to send the message that the Brussels format and negotiation should be resumed, to revitalize Brussels format, and also to reiterate his positions that Lachin corridor blockade should be ended, and also to say that EU is ready, at least the EU is ready, to be a part of this international presence in Nagorno-Karabakh beyond November 2025.
Great. And I'll leave the floor now to you, Ambassador, maybe to respond to those ideas. I think they're all excellent ideas, actually.
Well, I think I'm very grateful for these suggestions. I think that some of them we are already working on, and certainly I believe that the EU does have as I said, we have a genuine interest in security, stability, and peace in the region, and that means also putting our money where our mouth is. So this has already been communicated, but certainly the EU is in the South Caucasus, working with the countries of the South Caucasus to stay there, not again against anybody, but because we believe that this region is important to us and we want to help this region succeed.
Thank you. I couldn't have put that better myself. I think that's a perfect ending. And at the end of the day, bringing, peace and stability to the region is beneficial for all of the countries and the wider neighborhood. So I'm very sorry that we have to end this discussion now. I think we could have actually gone on for much longer, because all of the issues we've talked about, I think, deserve a conversation by themselves. So it was a fascinating discussion. I thank all of you for joining us here today. I mean, from the EPC side, we will certainly continue to follow developments in the region, and I'm sure we'll be organizing many more events such as this to follow developments as they go along. And hopefully one day we'll be sitting here talking about how the final peace deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan has been signed, and steps being made for implementation and whatnot. And I hope as well to be sitting here, this time next year when Georgia is a candidate country and is already starting to move to the next steps. So this is what I really hope for. I want to thank Anahid for the cooperation. It was a great pleasure to work with you, and I hope that we'll have another opportunity. And I guess I'll now give the floor to you to also have the chance to make some closing comments.
Thank you, Amanda. I mean, I will not be long. My thanks to all the speakers and to the EPC for this very interesting discussion, which we hope that our attendees also enjoyed. We couldn't go through all the questions, but hope we have had answers to nevertheless. And it seems that the role of the EU in the security of the South Caucasus is a very multi-layered, complicated answer, but it seems to be just the beginning of an answer. So let's see indeed what the next months and years will tell us. Thanks again.
Thank you again, and thanks to the audience. Until next time, and have a great evening or a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.